In this story, we will travel together through the life of one of the greatest silent film stars in history. His name was Charlie Chaplin, a boy who was once homeless, hungry, and forgotten by the world. Yet he became a legend who made millions of people laugh. A man who turned pain into art and weakness into power. This story will not only help you improve your English, but also teach you something very important about life. No matter where you come from, no matter how hard your life is now, your dreams are still possible. Are you ready to begin this journey with me? Then take a deep breath, relax, and listen carefully. Try to repeat sentences out loud, learn new vocabulary, and think about the message behind the story. Let us begin. Charlie Chaplin was born in London in 1889. This was not a time of comfort or peace. London was a hard place to live if you were poor. Factories were noisy and dirty, and the streets were full of people who were just trying to survive. Charlie's parents were both performers. They sang and acted on stage in small theaters. Their names were Hannah Chaplin and Charles Chaplin Sr. But their lives were not easy. Charlie's father became an alcoholic, and his mother became ill. When Charlie was still a small boy, his parents separated. And soon after, his father stopped supporting the family. Charlie and his older brother Sidney had to survive with their mother alone. They were very poor. Sometimes they had no food to eat. Sometimes they had no place to live. They moved from one small room to another, trying to escape hunger and debt. Soon things became worse. Hannah, Charlie's mother, became mentally ill. She could not take care of her children anymore. Charlie was only 7 years old when he and his brother were sent to the workhouse. A workhouse was a place for the poor, but it was not a kind place. People worked long hours for little food. Children were often treated badly. Imagine being 7 years old, hungry, alone, and scared. Charlie felt that way. But even in those dark days, he found something inside himself that helped him survive. Hope. Hope is a powerful word. Can you repeat it with me? Hope. Hope means believing that your future can be better, even if your present is difficult. Charlie held on to hope like a light in the darkness. He paid attention to people around him and learned something very important. He learned that even in sad times, people still needed to smile. People still needed to laugh. And Charlie discovered something else. He could make people laugh. One day, when he was still a child, he was watching a street performer. The man was trying to entertain a crowd, but something went wrong. The audience began to boo him. Suddenly, without thinking, Charlie jumped on stage and began to dance and act funny. People started to laugh. The performer was angry at first, but then something amazing happened. The audience threw coins not at the performer, but at Charlie. That day, Charlie learned that he had a gift. A gift is something special you can do, something inside you that makes you different. Charlie's gift was making people laugh without saying a single word. Later, he joined a group of child performers called the 8 Lancashire Lads. They performed in music halls around England. Charlie learned discipline, timing, and movement. He was not the best dancer, but he had a personality that made people watch him. He was like a small candle in a dark room. People noticed him. He also watched other performers carefully. He studied how they moved, how they reacted, and how they used their faces to express emotion. He learned that comedy is not just about jokes. It is about feelings. It is about showing pain in a funny way. It is about telling the truth in a simple way that everyone understands. Even as a child, Charlie understood something many adults never learn. Life is not about what you have. It is not about money or clothes or status. Life is about what you do with what you have. Charlie had no money, no home, and no father. But he had talent. He had courage. And he had dreams. Dreams are powerful. Repeat after me. I will never give up on my dreams. Again, I will never give up on my dreams. When Charlie was about 12 years old, his life became even harder. His mother was taken to a mental hospital. She stayed there for many years. Charlie and his brother had to live on their own. Sometimes they slept outside. Sometimes they did not eat for days. But Charlie never gave up. He worked small jobs. He sold newspapers. He polished shoes. He even worked in a glass factory. The work was hard and the pay was low, but he kept going. Why? Because he believed that his life could be better. Because he believed in himself. Believing in yourself is the first step to success. Many people give up before they even try. They say things like, I am not smart enough. I am not lucky. I am too poor. Charlie could have said those things too. But he did not. Instead, he said, I will find a way. And that made all the difference. So, here is a question for you. Do you believe in yourself? Do you believe that you can improve your English, your skills, your future? If your answer is yes, say it out loud right now. Yes, I believe in myself. Charlie's life was full of pain, but it was also full of learning. Every experience taught him something. Every problem made him stronger. He learned to survive. He learned to adapt. And he learned to make people smile even when he was suffering inside. This ability would later make him famous across the world. When Charlie Chaplin became a teenager, he already knew he wanted to be a performer. He did not want to spend his life doing small jobs for little money. He wanted to act. He wanted to entertain. He wanted to become someone people would remember. He knew this dream would not be easy. Dreams are never easy. But Charlie was ready to fight for his future, one step at a time. At the age of 14, Charlie got a small role in a theater play. It was a comedy show called Jim, a Romance of Cocaine. Charlie did not have many lines, but he made the audience laugh just by the way he moved. He used his body and face to tell jokes without saying too much. Soon after that, he joined a theater company run by Fred Karno. Fred Karno was a famous comedy producer in England. He discovered many young talents and helped them grow. When he saw Charlie perform, he immediately knew that this boy had something special, something unique, something the world would love. Fred Karno gave Charlie more roles in his comedy shows. Charlie traveled across England and performed in many theaters. He learned how to make people laugh in different cities and different situations. He became a master of timing. Timing means doing something at the perfect moment. In comedy, timing is everything. If you speak too early, the joke is not funny. If you speak too late, the joke is not funny. But if you speak at the right time, the audience laughs and claps. Charlie practiced this skill every day. He also watched and copied other actors, not to steal their ideas, but to learn from them. He believed that learning is a never-ending journey. You can learn from anyone, even from someone younger or less experienced. Charlie never stopped learning. That was one of his greatest strengths. He once said, "You will never find a rainbow if you are looking down." What did he mean? He meant that if you focus only on your problems, you will never see opportunities. If you keep your head up, if you stay curious and open to learning, you will discover something beautiful in life. In 1910, something happened that changed Charlie's life forever. Fred Carno's company received an invitation to perform in the United States of America. At that time, America was a land of opportunity. Many people dreamed of going there to find success. When Charlie heard the news, he felt excited and nervous. He had never traveled so far before, but he also knew this could be his chance to become great. So he joined the tour. The journey to America was long. It took many days to cross the Atlantic Ocean by ship. Charlie spent his time practicing comedy routines and watching the sea. He thought about his mother, who was still in the mental hospital. He thought about his brother Sidney, who was also trying to build his own life. He thought about his past, about the hunger and loneliness, and he asked himself, will my life finally change? When he arrived in New York City, he could not believe his eyes. The streets were full of life. Horses pulled carriages, people shouted in different languages, and tall buildings stood like giants in the sky. It was louder, faster, and bigger than anything Charlie had ever seen. He breathed in the cold winter air and told himself, "This is where my future begins." Fred Carno's shows were successful in America. The audiences loved the British comedy style. They laughed and clapped and came back again to watch more. Charlie became one of the favorite performers in the group. People remembered his face, his walk, his funny expressions. But he was still just a stage actor. He had no idea that soon he would become a movie star. Movies were still new in 1910. They were silent black and white films, usually only a few minutes long. Actors did not use their voices. They had to act using only movement and facial expression. One day, during their second tour in America, a man named Mack Sennett came to watch their show. Mack Sennett owned Keystone Studios, a film company in Hollywood. He was looking for new talent, someone who could make people laugh. When he saw Charlie perform, he was impressed. Charlie's body language was perfect for silent films. After the show, Mack Sennett went backstage and asked Charlie a question that would change his life forever. "Would you like to work in movies?" Charlie did not answer right away. Movies were new and risky. The theater was safe. People respected theater actors. The little tramp was a funny and kind-hearted character. He wore tight pants, a bowler hat, a small mustache, and carried a bamboo cane. He walked in a funny way, with his feet turned out. He tried to act like a gentleman even though he was poor. The little tramp was a simple character, but he had a deep soul. He made people laugh, but he also made people feel. He showed that even poor people had dignity. He showed that kindness was more important than money. He showed that life could be beautiful even in hard times. Charlie created the Little Tramp costume using old clothes he found in the studio. When he put on the costume for the first time, he felt completely different. He was no longer Charlie Chaplin, the poor boy from London. He became someone new. He became a symbol. When he walked out in front of the camera as the Little Tramp for the first time, something inside him awakened. He knew this character would change everything, and it did. Audiences loved the Little Tramp. They laughed, cried, and cheered. Silent film theaters were full. People came again and again to watch Charlie's films. Newspapers wrote about him. Children copied his walk. Adults admired his heart. Charlie Chaplin was becoming famous. But success did not make him lazy. He worked harder than ever. He wrote scripts. He directed scenes. He edited films. He controlled every detail because he wanted his films to be perfect. He believed that art should be honest and real, but even as his career began to rise, Charlie never forgot where he came from. He knew what hunger felt like. He knew what loneliness felt like. He knew what it was like to be ignored and forgotten. That is why he always put love and humanity in his films. He wanted to give hope to people who were suffering. He wanted to make the world a kinder place. Before we end this section, let me ask you a question. Have you ever felt like giving up? Have you ever felt like your dreams were too far away? If yes, remember this. Charlie Chaplin went from the workhouse to Hollywood. He went from hunger to fame. He went from pain to greatness. If he could do it, you can too. You have the power to change your life. You just need courage, hope, and persistence. Repeat after me. I will follow my dreams. I will work hard. I will not give up. This is the end of section 2. We learned how Charlie began his journey as a performer, how he traveled to America, and how he discovered the character that changed his life, the little tramp. You also learned new words like timing, performance, courage, and persistence. You practiced speaking and thinking in English, and you learned a powerful life lesson. Your past does not decide your future. Your choices do. Success is a strange thing. Many people dream of it. Many people want it. But when it finally comes, it does not always bring peace or happiness. Sometimes it brings pressure. Sometimes it brings loneliness. Sometimes it brings fear. The fear of losing what you have worked so hard to gain. Charlie Chaplin was now famous. People recognized him everywhere he went. Movie theaters were full of audiences waiting to see the little tramp. But Charlie was not satisfied. He wanted to grow. He wanted to go deeper. He did not want to create simple comedy forever. He wanted to tell real stories, stories that touch the heart. In 1915, Charlie signed a new contract with a better studio called S&A. They paid him a salary that was unbelievable at that time. But Charlie did not care only about money. He cared about control. He wanted to direct his own films so he could make them exactly the way he imagined. He believed that a movie should be more than entertainment. He believed it should have emotion, meaning, and truth. He once said, "To truly laugh, you must be able to take your pain and play with it." And that is exactly what he did. Charlie became famous for mixing comedy with sadness. When people watched his films, they laughed at his funny movements, but they also felt his pain. They saw a man who tried his best even when life was unfair. They saw a poor man who treated others with kindness. Charlie reminded the world that humor and heart can live together in the same story. Even though Charlie was becoming successful, life was not always easy behind the scenes. He was still young, only in his 20s, and he had many doubts. He wanted people to love his work, but he also worried he might fail. He worked long hours, sometimes day and night, trying to make every scene perfect. But hard work brings results, and soon Charlie became one of the most powerful filmmakers in Hollywood. In 1916, he made films like The Vagabond, The Fireman, and 1 a.m. These films were more emotional than his earlier work. He began adding music and deeper stories. People started to see him not just as a funny actor, but as an artist. His films became events. When a new Charlie Chaplin movie came out, people waited in long lines to see it. At this time, Charlie also began working with people who would stay important in his life for many years. One of them was a young actress named Edna Purviance. She became his co-star in more than 30 films. Edna had a warm smile and natural acting style that fit perfectly with Charlie's emotion-filled comedy. Together, they created memorable stories about love, struggle, and hope. But success also attracted attention, and not all attention is good. The media began following Charlie's personal life. Reporters wrote about his relationships, his mistakes, and even his private struggles. He found it difficult to trust people. Many people wanted to be close to him not because they cared about him, but because he was famous. Charlie once said, "Fame has no value unless it helps you make the world better." And that is what he tried to do. He used his success to bring joy to millions. In 1917, he moved to a new studio called Mutual, where he had more freedom to create. There, he made some of his most beloved short films: Easy Street, The Cure, and The Immigrant. The Immigrant was a powerful story about a poor man who travels to America in search of a better life. But when he arrives, life is not easy. He faces hunger, danger, and discrimination. Does that sound familiar? Yes, it was Charlie's own story. He used his films as a mirror of real life. He never forgot what it felt like to be poor and alone. That is why people loved his movies. They were funny because they were true. But while Charlie was rising in Hollywood, the world outside was changing. In 1914, the First World War had begun in Europe. Millions of people were suffering. Many young men were forced to join the army. People lost their homes, their families, and their futures. During this dark time, Charlie's films became a source of comfort. He made people laugh when they had forgotten how. Even soldiers in the trenches watched Charlie Chaplin films to feel a moment of happiness. He brought light into the darkness. But in 1918, something terrible happened to him personally. His beloved mother Hannah, who had been in a mental hospital for many years, became even more ill. She could barely speak. She could not recognize people sometimes. Charlie's heart was broken. He loved his mother deeply. He remembered how she used to sing to him when he was a child. He remembered how she tried her best, even when life was cruel. He remembered how she sacrificed everything for her children. And now she was lost inside her mind. Charlie visited her whenever he could. He held her hands and spoke to her softly. He told her about his life, his success, and his dreams. Even though she could not answer, he knew she could feel his love. Pain filled his heart, but it also gave him strength. He decided to use his art to show the world that love is stronger than pain. In 1919, Charlie made one of the most important decisions of his life. He joined with 3 other great artists of the time, Mary Pickford, Douglas Fairbanks, and D.W. Griffith, to create United Artists. This was a film company owned by artists, not businessmen. They wanted freedom. They wanted to make films without interference from studio bosses. They wanted to protect their creativity. Charlie believed that true art could only exist when artists had the power to control their work. United Artists gave him that power. At this time, Charlie also started writing longer films. His first full-length masterpiece was The Kid, released in 1921. It was a story about a poor man who finds an abandoned baby. He takes care of the child and raises him with love, even though he has nothing. The film was emotional, warm, and real. It showed the beauty of love between people who are not related by blood, but by heart. At the end of the film, millions of people around the world cried tears of both sadness and joy. The Kid was a huge success. It proved that Charlie Chaplin was not only a comedian, but one of the greatest filmmakers in history. What made the kid so special? It came from Charlie's own heart. He put his childhood pain, his loneliness, and his love for his mother into the story. He showed the world that love is not about money or power. Love is about care, kindness, and sacrifice. He reminded people that even a broken heart can still love. Before we end this section, I want you to think about this question. What makes great art? Is it money? No. Is it fame? No. Great art comes from the heart. It comes from honesty. It comes from real human experience. Charlie Chaplin turned his pain into art. And you can do the same in your life. You can take your struggles and turn them into strength. You can take your sadness and turn it into courage. Repeat after me. My story is not over. I am still growing. I am still learning. I am still strong. After the success of The Kid, Charlie Chaplin became more than a movie star. He became a symbol of hope. He represented ordinary people, the poor, the forgotten, the dreamers. People did not just watch his films for entertainment. They felt them. They cried with him, laughed with him, and loved him. Charlie understood something powerful. Films were not just pictures on a screen. They were emotions. They were life. In the early 1920s, Hollywood was growing fast. New studios, new actors, and new directors appeared every year. The movie industry was becoming a big business. But Charlie was different from the others. Many filmmakers focused only on making money, but Charlie focused on making meaning. He refused to rush his films. He preferred to take his time and create something special. He was not afraid to stop filming and start again if he felt something was not perfect. He wanted every scene to be beautiful and honest. In 1921, after the success of The Kid, Charlie traveled back to London for the first time since he had left. He was now famous around the world. People waited for hours outside theaters just to see him. Crowds followed him through the streets, cheering and reaching out to touch his hand. But behind his smile, Charlie felt sadness. When he visited his old neighborhood, he saw the same poverty he remembered from his childhood. The streets were still dirty. Children were still hungry. Families were still suffering. Charlie realized that even though he had escaped poverty, millions of people had not. This memory stayed in his heart and inspired many of his future films. During his visit to London, Charlie also spent time with his brother Sidney, who had become his business manager. Sidney had helped Charlie from the beginning, and together they made strong decisions about Charlie's work and career. They trusted each other deeply. Family was important to Charlie, and although he had lost much in life, he always kept his brother close. But life was not peaceful for long. When Charlie returned to America, he became busy again with new films. He worked on projects like A Woman of Paris, a serious drama, and The Gold Rush, a comedy about love, survival, and dreams set during the Klondike Gold Rush in Alaska. The Gold Rush became one of his greatest films. Charlie once said, "If people laugh at my films, that is fine. But if they feel something too, that is everything." In The Gold Rush, he created scenes that were both funny and heartbreaking. One famous scene showed him cooking and eating his own shoe because he was starving. The audience laughed at the absurd situation, but they also felt his loneliness and pain. That balance of humor and emotion was Charlie's genius. However, success did not protect Charlie from personal problems. His marriage at the time began to fall apart. He had married young and later realized they were not truly compatible. The marriage was full of arguments and misunderstandings, and soon it ended in divorce. The newspapers wrote stories about him every day, some true and some false. They tried to turn his personal life into a scandal. Charlie hated that. He wanted to be known for his work, not his private life. But fame comes with a price, and sometimes that price is privacy. Instead of losing himself in sadness, Charlie continued to focus on his work. He believed that when life becomes difficult, you must keep moving forward. That is the only way to survive. So he began working on a new film in 1928 called The Circus. It was a story about a poor man who accidentally becomes a circus star. Once again, life copied art. Just as Charlie faced chaos and trouble in his life, so did his character in the film. He used his pain as inspiration. But making the circus was not easy. During filming, the studio caught fire and burned down. Charlie had problems with his first wife in court. He also had financial difficulties. Everything seemed to go wrong at the same time. Many people would have given up. But not Charlie. He kept filming. He rebuilt the sets. He stayed strong. And in the end, the circus became another success. The film won an award for artistic achievement. But when Charlie accepted the honor, he said, "Thank you, but I do not feel I deserve it." The film created itself. Those words showed his humility. Even when he was one of the biggest stars in the world, he stayed humble. In 1929, something new came to the film industry. Sound. Movies were no longer silent. Actors could finally speak on screen. These new films were called talkies. Many silent film stars became afraid. They worried that without the power of music and emotion, films would lose their magic. Some actors lost their careers because their voices did not sound good on screen. Others could not adapt to the new style of acting. People wondered, what will Charlie Chaplin do? Will the little tramp speak? Charlie surprised everyone. He refused to make talking films. He said that the little tramp was a character for silent films. If he spoke, he would lose his charm. Charlie believed that actions speak louder than words. He believed that people all over the world could understand silent films, even if they did not speak English. So he decided to continue making silent films, even though the rest of the industry was changing. Many people thought he was making a mistake. They said he would disappear. They said he was old-fashioned. But Charlie did not care about trends. He cared about truth and art. He decided to make another silent film. This film would become one of his greatest masterpieces, City Lights. City Lights was a love story about the little tramp and a blind flower girl. She believes he is a rich man, but he is actually poor. Still, he does everything he can to help her. He works hard to earn money so she can have an operation to restore her sight. The film was funny, emotional, and magical. It was one of the most beautiful films ever made about love and sacrifice. And even though it was silent, people all over the world loved it. But the most powerful moment of the film was the ending. After the girl regains her sight, she finally sees the little tramp for the first time. At first, she does not recognize him, but then he smiles nervously. She touches his hand and realizes he is the man who helped her. Tears fill her eyes. She asks softly, "You?" And he answers with his eyes full of love. That moment did not need words because love does not need words. City Lights was released in 1931, 2 years after sound films became popular. People said it would fail. They were wrong. It became one of the greatest silent films in history. Charlie proved that real emotion never goes out of style. He taught the world that kindness is a universal language. Before we end this section, I want to ask you something. Do you feel sometimes that the world is changing too fast? Do you feel afraid that you cannot keep up? If yes, remember Charlie's story. He did not follow the crowd. He followed his heart. He stayed true to his values. And because of that, he created something timeless. Repeat after me. I will stay true to myself. I will not fear change. I will follow my heart. Charlie's rise to fame seemed magical to the people watching from the outside. But the truth was far from magic. It was not luck. It was not an accident. It was the result of years of struggle, learning, observing, and working harder than anyone around him. When he finally became famous, he remembered every cold night, every hunger pain, every lonely walk through the streets of London. Success did not erase his past. Instead, it gave him a deeper understanding of life. In Hollywood, people were amazed by Charlie. He was different from any actor they had seen before. Most actors tried to look handsome and strong, but Charlie did the opposite. He created a character who was poor, small, and weak. A character who wore old clothes and broken shoes. A character who was polite but unlucky. That character was called the Tramp. The Tramp became one of the most famous characters in film history. He was funny without being cruel. He was poor but full of dignity. He had nothing, yet he had a heart full of kindness. People all over the world fell in love with him. They laughed with him. They cried with him. They saw themselves in him. Do you know why the Tramp became so powerful? Because he was real. He came from truth. Charlie was not acting. He was remembering. He was remembering what it was like to be hungry, to be homeless, to feel alone. He used his pain to create comedy. That is why his movies touched millions of hearts. Charlie once said, "To truly laugh, you must be able to take your pain and play with it." Think about that for a moment. Pain is heavy. Pain is something most people try to hide. But Charlie turned his pain into art. He did not hide his weaknesses. He showed them. He shared them. And because he had the courage to be honest, he changed the world of entertainment forever. Let us practice speaking a little. Repeat these sentences after me. I will not hide from my pain. I will learn from my pain. I will grow from my pain. I will turn my pain into strength. Very good. Now, let us continue. By 1916, Charlie Chaplin was the most famous man in the world. Imagine that. Just a few years earlier, he was a homeless teenager in London, trying to survive. Now, he was earning one of the highest salaries in Hollywood. Crowds followed him everywhere he went. Children imitated his walk. Men copied his mustache and hat. Women admired his charm. Magazines wrote about him. Newspapers followed his every move. Charlie was no longer just a performer. He had become a global icon. But fame is like fire. It can give light, but it can also burn. Fame can be dangerous if you are not strong enough to carry it. Charlie was still the same person inside. Quiet, thoughtful, and serious. But the world did not want the real Charlie. They wanted the Tramp. Wherever he went, people asked him to perform. They wanted him to make them laugh. They wanted the funny man in the funny hat. But Charlie was more than that. He was human. He had emotions. He had dreams. He had fears. Sometimes he wanted to be alone. Sometimes he wanted to think. Sometimes he wanted to talk about serious things. But people did not understand that. Fame built a wall between Charlie and the world. Loneliness is not just being alone. Loneliness is feeling alone, even when people are around you. And that is how Charlie sometimes felt. But instead of running away, he used those feelings in his work. He began writing and directing his own films. He wanted to tell deeper stories, stories that showed more than comedy, stories that showed life. In 1918, Charlie released a film called A Dog's Life. It was more than a comedy. It was a story of survival, loneliness, and friendship. It showed a man who had nothing in life except a small dog he found on the street. Together they faced hunger, danger, and rejection. But they never gave up. Sound familiar? Yes, it was Charlie's own story hidden inside comedy. He was not just making films. He was sharing his heart. Soon after that, something very big happened. The world changed. The First World War ended in 1918. Millions of people had died. Millions of families were broken. The world was full of sadness. People needed hope. They needed to feel human again. They needed laughter that healed. And that is what Charlie gave them. He did not use violence. He did not use big words. He did not use special effects. He used simple truth. A hat, a cane, a funny walk, and a heart full of emotion. With each new movie, Charlie grew stronger as an artist. He made films like Shoulder Arms, where the tramp becomes a soldier in the war but still finds a way to make people laugh. In The Kid, he tells the story of a poor man who finds an abandoned baby and raises him with love. That film was so powerful that people cried in the cinema. Charlie was proving that comedy could be more than entertainment. Comedy could speak to the human spirit. But there was another challenge growing in Charlie's life. The film industry was changing quickly. New technology was being developed. Movies were no longer silent. Suddenly, films had sound. Actors began to speak on camera. Many silent film stars disappeared because they could not make the change. People wondered what Charlie would do next. Would the tramp speak? Would Charlie change his style? Or would he disappear like the others? Charlie thought deeply about this. He knew sound films were the future, but he also knew something important about the tramp. The tramp did not need words. He spoke a universal language movement, emotion, and heart. If the tramp started speaking, something would be lost. So Charlie made a bold decision. He continued making silent-style films even in the world of sound. People thought he was crazy, but he was not afraid to follow his vision. Being different is not easy. When you make your own path, some people will laugh at you. Some will criticize you. Some will try to stop you. But you must listen to your own truth. Repeat after me, I will follow my own path. I will stay true to myself. I am not afraid to be different. Good. Charlie followed his heart and created one of his greatest films, City Lights. It was a silent film in the age of talking movies. Many people said it would fail. They said audiences were tired of silent films. But Charlie believed in his story. He believed in the tramp. And once again, he proved everyone wrong. City Lights became a masterpiece. It was funny and beautiful. It told the story of the tramp who falls in love with a blind flower girl and does everything he can to help her. It was one of the first films to combine comedy with deep emotion. When the film ended, audiences cried. No words were spoken, but hearts were moved. Charlie showed the world something important. You do not need big things to do something great. You do not need perfect English to speak from your heart. You do not need a lot of money to start something meaningful. You only need courage, hard work, and passion. But even as his success grew, so did his problems. Fame brings not only admiration, but also judgment. People began to watch Charlie's personal life. They criticized his relationships. They attacked his ideas. They said he was too emotional in his films, too political, too different. The newspapers were full of stories about him. Some were true, many were not. It was painful for Charlie. But again, he did not stop. He continued to create. He continued to speak through film. He continued to make people laugh and think. By now, Charlie was not only an actor, he was a writer, director, producer, editor, and composer. Yes, he even wrote music for his films. He was a complete artist, but he never forgot where he came from. He never forgot the little boy who slept on the streets of London. He never forgot the hunger, the sadness, and the fear. Those experiences gave him power. They gave him truth. Without pain, he would not have become the legend we know today. Before we close this section, I want to ask you a question. What do you do with your pain? Do you hide from it? Do you run from it? Or do you learn from it like Charlie did? Your answer will shape your future. Remember, your story is not over. Your past does not define your future. You have the power to write your own story. Repeat after me. My challenges make me stronger. My pain gives me wisdom. I will never give up. I will rise. Yes, you are doing great. Keep going. Like Charlie, you are on a journey. And this journey is just beginning. Charlie Chaplin had already become a legend by the early 1930s. His films were loved in every corner of the world. People in America, Europe, Asia, and Africa watched his movies even if they did not speak English. Why? Because Charlie spoke a universal language, a language that needed no words. The language of emotion, the language of the heart. But the world was changing once again. The Great Depression had begun. Millions of people lost their jobs. Families lost their homes. Banks closed. Businesses failed. People were hungry, angry, and afraid. During this time of suffering, people needed hope more than ever. Charlie saw what was happening in the world, and he wanted to do something about it. But he was not a politician. He was not a rich businessman. He was not a president. He was an artist. And artists speak with their art. So he created a film called Modern Times. Modern Times was a movie about a worker in a factory. The machines were loud and powerful. The bosses watched the workers like they were robots. The workers moved fast, faster and faster until they could not think anymore. They lost their humanity. They became part of the machine. That was Charlie's message. Modern life was stealing people's souls. Technology was taking away joy. Work was destroying dreams. Charlie used comedy to show serious problems. He made people laugh, but also made them think. One of the most famous scenes from the movie is when the tramp gets pulled into a giant machine. He rolls through gears and wheels. It is funny, but also sad. It shows what happens when people are controlled by society, when they are no longer free. Some people did not like this film. They said Charlie was criticizing capitalism. They said he was dangerous. They said he should stop making films like this. But Charlie refused to be silent. He believed that an artist must tell the truth, even when it is uncomfortable, even when people do not want to hear it. Let us pause for a moment and think. Have you ever been afraid to speak your truth? Have you ever kept quiet because you worried what other people might think? Charlie did not let fear control him. Repeat after me. I will speak my truth. I will stand for what is right. I will not be silenced by fear. Good. Let us continue. Modern Times was released in 1936. It became one of Charlie's greatest films. People loved it. They cried. They laughed. They understood. Even today, it is still watched, still studied, still loved. It is a story that never gets old because it talks about something universal, the struggle to keep your humanity in a difficult world. But Charlie was not done yet. He was about to make the most powerful and risky film of his entire life. A film that would change history. A film that would challenge evil. A film called The Great Dictator. At that time, a dark shadow was spreading over the world. Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party were rising to power in Germany. They were violent. They were racist. They believed they were better than other people. They wanted to control the world. They hurt innocent people. They started a war. They caused fear across the planet. Most filmmakers were too afraid to speak against Hitler. Hollywood stayed quiet. Politicians stayed quiet. Even world leaders stayed quiet. But Charlie Chaplin was different. He refused to be silent. He knew that evil wins when good people do nothing. He believed that art could fight hate. So he made The Great Dictator, a film that openly attacked Hitler. In the movie, Charlie played two roles: a poor Jewish barber and a dictator who looked exactly like Adolf Hitler. He used comedy to expose cruelty. He used humor to fight hate. The film was brave. It was bold. And it was dangerous. Many people told Charlie not to make the film. They warned him that he would lose his audience. They said he would destroy his career. They said people would turn against him. But Charlie did not listen. He followed his heart. He believed that doing the right thing was more important than being popular. But even though The Great Dictator became a powerful success, it also brought new problems into Charlie's life. When you speak against evil, evil often fights back. After the film was released, some politicians in America began to attack Charlie. They said he was a troublemaker. They said he was dangerous. They said he did not love America. Newspapers began to write lies about him. Reporters followed him everywhere he went. They tried to destroy his reputation. They tried to silence him. Charlie was deeply hurt, but he did not stop working. He began writing new films. But something had changed in Hollywood. People were afraid of anyone who spoke about social issues. If someone talked about peace, they called him a communist. If someone talked about equality, they said he was dangerous. Charlie believed in freedom of speech. He believed in justice. But those beliefs made him a target. He faced many false accusations. People who never knew him spoke against him. They judged him without understanding him. That is something we all experience at some point in life. People will talk about you. They will misunderstand you. They will judge you. But you must remember something very important. Other people's opinions do not define you. Your actions define you. Your heart defines you. Your courage defines you. Repeat this with me. I know who I am. I know what I stand for. I will not be broken by lies. I will stay strong. Very good. After The Great Dictator, Charlie made another film called Monsieur Verdoux. It was a dark comedy, a film about a man who does bad things but uses charm to hide them. The film was clever and deep, but it shocked many people. They did not understand it. Some critics said Charlie had gone too far, but once again, he did not apologize for his art. He believed every artist must have the freedom to explore ideas, even if people do not agree with them. Charlie once said, "I am in the business of freedom." That means he believed in creating without fear. He believed in thinking freely, speaking freely, and living truthfully. But freedom has a price. Charlie paid that price when his personal life became a weapon against him. He was attacked not only for his films, but also for his relationships. The media twisted stories about him. They created scandals to hurt him. They called him names. They tried to turn people against him. In 1952, while he was traveling to London for the premiere of one of his films, the United States government sent him a message. They said he was not allowed to return to America. After 40 years of living and working there, after giving his life to cinema, after making millions of people laugh, America closed its doors to him. He was exiled. Imagine how that must have felt. To give your heart to a country, to build your life there, to find success there, only to be pushed out and rejected. Charlie did not cry in public. He did not complain. He did not hate. He moved to Switzerland with his family and continued to write, think, and create. But deep inside, a part of his heart was broken. Still, he did not give up. Even in exile, he continued working. In 1957, he made another film called A King in New York. In that movie, he talked about his experience with hate, lies, and political injustice. It was his response to those who tried to silence him. He used art as a weapon, not to hurt, but to tell the truth. Charlie was no longer a young man. His hair had turned white. His body grew weak. But his spirit stayed strong. He never lost his passion. He never stopped believing in humanity. He never stopped fighting for truth. Let us pause here and reflect. What do we learn from this part of Charlie's life? We learn that success is not a straight line. It is not easy. Life will test you. It will challenge you. Sometimes people will try to break you, but nothing can defeat you if you keep your heart strong. Say this with me. I will not give up. I will rise again. I will turn pain into power. My story is not over. You are doing amazing. Your English is growing stronger. Your confidence is growing. Every sentence you speak brings you closer to your goals. Learning a language is like life. It takes patience, courage, and heart. And just like Charlie, you must keep going no matter what. Charlie once said, "Life is a tragedy when seen in close-up, but a comedy in long shot." That means that when problems feel heavy, we feel sad. But when we step back and look at the bigger picture, we see that life is full of hope, beauty, and second chances. Your life is the same. No matter what challenges you face today, your future is still full of light. This brings us to the final chapter of Charlie's life, a chapter full of wisdom, peace, and unforgettable legacy. Charlie Chaplin now lived far away from Hollywood, far away from the bright lights and camera flashes that once followed him everywhere. After being forced to leave the United States, he settled in a quiet village in Switzerland with his wife Una and their children. The house stood near a peaceful lake, surrounded by mountains and green fields. It was a simple, calm life, very different from the noise and chaos of Hollywood. Charlie was no longer followed by reporters. Crowds did not gather outside his home. He finally had something he never truly had before, something he had searched for his whole life: peace. But peace did not mean his life was easy. Leaving America had left a deep wound in his heart. He had worked there for 40 years. He had built his career there. He had dreamed, created, struggled, and succeeded there. He became a legend there. But in the end, he was pushed away. Sometimes, late at night, he would sit alone by the window, looking outside at the moonlight reflecting on the lake. He would think about his past, his journey, and everything he had lost. Still, he remained grateful. He had a family, he had his art, and most importantly, he still had hope inside him. Charlie spent his days writing music, reading books, and spending time with his children. He loved being a father. He would sit with them and tell stories about his childhood in London. They could not believe that their father, the famous Charlie Chaplin, had once been a homeless boy who slept on the streets. But Charlie always reminded them that life is full of surprises. No one knows what tomorrow brings. He told them, "You must never give up. You must always keep trying. You must always believe in yourself even when no one else does. That is the secret of life. Keep going." Even though he lived far away from Hollywood, the world never forgot Charlie Chaplin. His films continued to play in theaters. Students studied his work. Young actors copied his style. People still laughed at his comedy and cried at his emotional scenes. He was still the tramp. He was still beloved. But something was missing. Something still felt unfinished. In 1964, Charlie wrote his autobiography, telling the story of his life from a poor London boy to an international legend. The book became a success. People around the world were amazed by his journey. Many had no idea how much he had suffered, how hard he had worked, or how deeply he had loved his art. Charlie did not write the book to gain attention. He wrote it to share the truth. He wrote it to show that even someone who begins with nothing can still rise beyond pain and find greatness. But perhaps the most emotional moment of Charlie Chaplin's later life came in 1972, winter, years after he was exiled from the United States. The same country that had rejected him now invited him back. The Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences decided to honor him with a special Academy Award, also known as an Oscar, for the impact he had on the world of cinema. At first, Charlie did not want to go. He was nervous. He wondered if the people who once hated him would still judge him. But with encouragement from his wife Una, he agreed to return for one night. On April the 10th, 1972, Charlie Chaplin returned to America. When he walked onto the stage of the Academy Awards, the entire audience stood up. They clapped. They cheered. They cried. The applause did not stop for 12 minutes. It was the longest standing ovation in Oscar history. People did not just see a comedian. They saw a man who had survived pain. A man who had given his heart to the world, a man who had turned suffering into laughter. They saw a true artist. Charlie stood on the stage with tears in his eyes. For years, people had spoken lies about him, but now he was receiving love, respect, and honor. In his short speech, he said only a few words, but they were full of emotion. He said, "I am touched by your honor. I am proud to be back in America." That moment healed something in Charlie. It did not erase the pain of the past, but it closed a long and difficult chapter of his life. After that night, Charlie returned to Switzerland with a renewed spirit. He continued writing and composing music. He spent time with his family. He enjoyed simple moments like walking in the garden, watching the sunset, or drinking tea with his wife. Fame no longer mattered to him. Awards no longer mattered. What mattered most was love, peace, and leaving a positive legacy for the world. Charlie Chaplin died on Christmas Day in 1977 at the age of 88. The world mourned. Newspapers around the globe wrote, "The world has lost a genius." But in truth, he was never lost. His light still shines. His films are still watched. His message is still powerful. His spirit still lives. What can we learn from Charlie Chaplin's life? We learn that it does not matter where you start. It does not matter if you are poor, alone, afraid, or broken. What matters is what you do with your life. Charlie used his pain to make the world better. He used his art to bring joy and hope. He used his voice to defend truth and humanity. He never stopped creating. He never stopped believing. And neither should you. Repeat after me. I will rise above my struggles. Charlie Chaplin had now become one of the most famous people in the world. His character, the tramp, had stolen the hearts of millions. He was not just a comedian anymore. He was a storyteller, an artist, a symbol of hope for everyday people. But fame brings not only applause, but also pressure. And Charlie would soon learn that success comes with new challenges. Life never becomes easier, even for those who reach the top. It only becomes different. During this time, Charlie Chaplin was making one successful film after another. But something inside him was changing. In the beginning, he made people laugh just to survive. Now, he wanted something more. He wanted to make films that mattered. Films that could change how people think. Films that could speak to the world. He wanted to give a message through comedy, not just entertainment. But not everyone liked his ideas. Some studio executives told him, "Charlie, people just want to laugh. Why do you want to talk about problems? Why talk about poverty or injustice or humanity? Just give them jokes." Charlie did not agree. He knew from his own life what pain and hunger felt like. He knew what it meant to be forgotten by society. He never wanted to be just another rich actor. He wanted to do something meaningful. One day he said, "I know people want to laugh, but laughter can also open the heart, and when the heart is open, truth can enter." These words show who he truly was. Not just a comedian, but a poet of the screen. Charlie began working on films that had powerful themes hidden inside comedy. One of his famous films was The Kid, a beautiful story of an orphan boy and a lonely man who becomes his protector. It was a story full of emotion, inspired by Charlie's own childhood. When the film came out, it touched millions of people. Some cried, some laughed, but everyone felt something. Charlie had found a new path. He could make people laugh and cry at the same time. But success did not protect him from pain. Behind the scenes, Charlie was battling personal struggles. He had relationships that failed, people who betrayed him, newspapers that spread lies about him, and governments that watched him. Fame had made him a target. Some people criticized him for being too powerful. Some said he was dangerous because he had too much influence. But Charlie only wanted to entertain the world. Still, life was testing him again, just like when he was a child. Tell me, my friend, do you ever feel like life keeps testing you again and again, even when you are trying your best? Does it ever seem like some people try to bring you down just because you are doing something good? If yes, then you and Charlie have something in common. He faced the same battles. Charlie began working on one of his most important films, Modern Times. The film criticizes how society treats workers like machines. It shows a world where people lose their humanity because of factories, money, and stress. Even though it was comedy, it was also a message. Charlie believed that life is more than working like a robot. Life should have love, joy, and peace. This film became a classic, but not everyone liked it. Some rich people thought he was attacking their lifestyle. Some politicians thought he was against them. But Charlie continued anyway. He believed in using his voice for good. In this video, we are learning English through Charlie Chaplin's story, but we are also learning something more important: courage. Repeat this after me. I must follow my heart even when others do not agree. Again, I must follow my heart even when others do not agree. Excellent. Many people loved Charlie, but many also misunderstood him. Some newspapers called him a troublemaker. Some said he should not talk about real problems. But Charlie believed that an artist must be honest. He said, "I am just trying to show life as I see it. Maybe some people do not like the truth, but that is not my fault." While all of this was happening, another huge change came to Hollywood: sound films, also known as talkies. Before this, films were silent. Actors had to express everything with their face and body, not their voice. But now, with new technology, people wanted movies with sound and talking. Silent films were disappearing. Many actors lost their jobs because they could not act with dialogue. Many studios stopped making silent films. People said that Charlie Chaplin was finished. They believed he would fail because the tramp did not speak. Newspapers wrote articles like, "The king of silent comedy will soon be forgotten." But Charlie did not panic. He took his time. While other actors rushed to make sound films, he waited and watched. He knew something important. Trends change, but great storytelling never dies. Charlie finally decided to make a sound film. But he did it in his own way, with his own style. The film was called The Great Dictator. It became one of his most powerful works. In this film, he made fun of dictators and evil leaders. It was dangerous to make such a film at that time. The world was close to war, and many people were afraid to speak. But Charlie was brave. He believed someone had to speak. In this film, Charlie gave one of the most famous speeches in movie history. He said, "We think too much and feel too little. More than machinery, we need humanity." These words are still true today. Technology is growing, but sometimes humanity is disappearing. Charlie reminded the world that love and kindness are powerful. But his courage had a price. Some people became angry. Some governments thought he was a threat. False accusations were made against him. People tried to destroy his career. Even though he gave the world laughter and hope, some people still attacked him. Isn't that strange? Sometimes, no matter how much good you do, some people will still try to bring you down. But you must continue. You must believe in your mission. Repeat after me. I will not stop because of criticism. Again, I will not stop because of criticism. Perfect. Charlie kept going. He made more films and continued to touch hearts around the world. But things were going to change again, in a way he never expected. Soon, he would lose something he never thought he would lose. His country. Yes, the boy who once slept on the streets of London and became a world legend would soon face the biggest fight of his life. And this time, it would not be in a movie. It would be real. But before we continue to that chapter, let me ask you, are you still with me? Are you enjoying this story? Are you learning and practicing English while also learning about life? Good, because this journey is only getting deeper. Charlie's life still has powerful lessons to teach us. Lessons about courage, purpose, and strength. If you are ready, we will continue. If you feel inspired so far, say this with me. My past does not decide my future. Again, my past does not decide my future. One more time. My past does not decide my future. Amazing. Charlie Chaplin had reached a level of fame that very few people in history ever experience. His face was known across continents. His films were watched in every country, and his character, the tramp, had become a symbol of hope for the poor, the lonely, and the forgotten. But as his fame grew, so did the number of people who wanted to control him, silence him, or remove him. Charlie had always spoken through comedy, but now his voice was becoming more powerful, and that made some people afraid of him. The world was changing. After the Great Depression, countries were still struggling with poverty. At the same time, new political powers were rising in Europe. Some leaders were gaining power by spreading fear, hate, and division. When Charlie made The Great Dictator, he spoke against fear and hate. He spoke for kindness, love, and humanity. But his bold message made powerful enemies. Many politicians in America were suspicious of him. They said he was dangerous. Not because he committed crimes, but because he influenced millions of people. Some people in the United States began accusing Charlie of being a communist, which was one of the worst things to be called during that time. But Charlie always said, "I am not a politician. I am an artist. I speak for humanity. I speak for peace." But it did not matter. The attacks continued. Newspapers printed lies about him. They said he was trying to secretly influence the country. They said he should not be trusted. But none of this stopped him. He continued making films, yet deep inside, Charlie felt hurt. He loved people. He always tried to help the poor and support the weak. But now he was being treated like an enemy. This was a new kind of pain for him. In his childhood, he suffered because he was poor. Now he was suffering because he was powerful. Life truly tests a person at every stage, first with weakness, then with strength. Let me ask you something. Have you ever been misunderstood? Have you ever tried to do something good, but people judged you wrongly? If you have felt that pain, then once again, you and Charlie understand each other. He knew what it felt like to be unfairly judged. Despite all of the accusations, Charlie tried to live a peaceful life. He had a family now, a wife he truly loved, and children who made him feel happiness again. After many failed relationships, he finally found love with Una O'Neill. She was much younger than him, and because of that, people judged their marriage. But Una truly loved Charlie. Not for his fame, but for his heart. She stood by his side when the world turned against him. She once said, "Charlie is not what people say he is. He is gentle, kind, and full of love." Without her, Charlie might not have survived the storm that was coming. In 1952, Charlie left America to travel to London for the premiere of his new film, Limelight. He boarded a ship with his family and sailed across the ocean. But while he was still at sea, something shocking happened. Sometimes when he walked alone by the lake, he thought about his past. He remembered the streets of London, where he begged for food. He remembered his mother singing and then losing her voice forever. He remembered sleeping in cold rooms. He remembered the fear of being alone. But he also remembered the courage that kept him alive, the belief that tomorrow could be better. That is why he often said, "You have to believe in yourself." That is the secret of life. What about you? Do you believe in yourself? Repeat after me. I believe in myself. Again, I believe in myself. One more time. I believe in myself. Good. Charlie was growing older now. His hair was white and his body was weaker. He did not walk as fast as before, but his mind remained sharp and his heart remained full of love. People around the world still watched his films. Children still laughed at the tramp. Adults still cried during The Kid. His work had become timeless. Then something beautiful happened. After 20 years in exile, America finally invited Charlie back. In 1972, he received an invitation from the Academy Awards in Hollywood. They wanted to give him an honorary Oscar for his lifetime achievements in film. At first, he was unsure. Should he return to a place that rejected him? But his family encouraged him. The world has changed, they told him. People want to see you again, so he returned. When he stepped onto the stage at the Oscars, something magical happened. The audience, filled with actors, directors, writers, and fans, stood up. They clapped. And they clapped. And they kept clapping. They clapped for 12 minutes straight. It was the longest standing ovation in Oscar history. Charlie's eyes were filled with tears. He covered his face because he could not hold back the emotion. For years he had been rejected. Now he was honored. For years people tried to silence him. Now they begged him to speak. When he finally spoke, he simply said, "Thank you. You are all wonderful." The moment was powerful. It showed that the truth always wins in the end. It may take time. It may take years, but it wins. Repeat this after me. The truth always wins. Again, the truth always wins. One more time. The truth always wins. Charlie returned to Switzerland after that, but his heart was full. He knew his story was complete. He had lived a life of pain and a life of glory. He had known hunger and he had known applause. He had fallen and he had risen. He had lost and he had won. His life was proof that no matter where you come from, no matter how poor you are, no matter how hard your life begins, you can still rise. And that is exactly what you must remember as we move forward. Your story is not over. Your struggle is not your ending. Like Charlie Chaplin, you can rise again and again. You only need two things: courage and belief. And now, we enter the final chapter, the closing of Charlie's extraordinary life. Are you ready? Charlie Chaplin's life had been extraordinary. From a homeless boy in London to one of the most famous people in the world, he had experienced pain, struggle, laughter, and triumph. He had faced hunger, loneliness, and rejection, but he had never given up. He had turned every challenge into strength, every failure into a lesson, and every heartbreak into inspiration. That is the power of his story, and that is the lesson he leaves for all of us. In his final years, Charlie lived quietly in Switzerland with his beloved wife Una and their children. He enjoyed simple pleasures: walking by the lake, listening to the birds, watching his children play, writing music, and reflecting on the life he had lived. But even in quiet moments, his mind was alive with creativity. He thought about comedy, about humanity, and about the world. He knew that laughter and love were powerful forces, forces that could heal, teach, and unite people. Charlie often said, "Life is a tragedy when seen in close-up, but a comedy in long shot." Those words show something very important. Life will always have problems, sadness, and challenges. Sometimes we will feel pain that seems impossible to bear. But if we step back, if we look at the bigger picture, we see that life is full of hope, opportunity, and moments of joy. And that is exactly what Charlie's life taught us. No matter how dark the moment feels, there is always light waiting ahead. He also believed in the power of kindness and humanity. He reminded everyone, we think too much and feel too little. More than machinery, we need humanity. More than cleverness, we need kindness and gentleness. These words were not just for movies. They were for life. Charlie believed that we should always care for each other, help the weak, and fight for what is right, even when it is difficult. That was the heart of his message, and it still resonates today. Charlie knew that the world would continue without him, but he wanted to leave a legacy. He wanted people to remember that life is not about money, fame, or power. It is about love, creativity, courage, and resilience. He wanted everyone to know that even if you start with nothing, you can rise higher than you ever imagined. He wanted his story to inspire the homeless boy in every child, the struggling worker, the person who feels unseen or forgotten. He wanted them to see that dreams are possible with hard work, hope, and courage. On December 25, 1977, Charlie Chaplin passed away peacefully at the age of 88. The world mourned the loss of a genius, a kind soul, and a man who had given laughter and joy to millions. But even as people wept, they remembered his films, his words, and his message. Charlie had achieved something remarkable. He had shown that a human being could rise above the most difficult circumstances and touch the hearts of the world. He had transformed personal pain into universal art, and that is why he remains a legend. Today, we can watch the tramp walking with a cane, falling into mischief and rising with dignity. And we feel connected to Charlie. We feel the hope, the courage, and the love he poured into every performance. And we remember that his life teaches us something essential. No matter what obstacles you face, no matter how lonely or poor you are, no matter what critics or challenges try to stop you, you can rise. You can create. You can make the world a better place. One small act, one smile, or one idea at a time. Repeat this with me. I can rise above challenges. I can follow my dreams. I can be kind, courageous, and creative. I will not give up, and I will leave a positive mark on the world. Very good. Remember, like Charlie, you have the power to turn hardship into strength, fear into courage, and obstacles into opportunities. Charlie Chaplin's journey from a homeless boy to a global icon is more than a story. It is a lesson, a guide, and a source of inspiration for all of us. His life reminds us that greatness is not measured by money or fame, but by heart, perseverance, and the ability to make a difference. Every laugh he created, every tear he inspired, and every moment he shared with the world continues to teach us the most important lesson. Never stop believing in yourself. Never stop dreaming, and never stop sharing your light with the world. And now, as we finish this story, take a deep breath and remember Charlie's courage, kindness, and determination. Let his life inspire you to face your challenges with strength, to speak your truth with courage, and to live your life fully, no matter where you begin. Charlie Chaplin, the boy who had nothing, left everything. Laughter, love, hope, and wisdom for the world. And so can you.